So when I was first asked to make a video about my hobbies and interests, or what I felt passionate about, what I really enjoyed, I thought, what am I going to talk about? I thought about my football club, Sunderland, and here we are at Wembley, obviously before kick-off, one of the 6 unhappy trips I've made to Wembley supporting my team. I thought about house renovation. Our house is 1850, we've done a lot of work with it. Here's me with a needle gun trying to clean up a stone wall in our kitchen. That is our kitchen there. And then I watched John's video and I thought about travel. I love travel. I've travelled quite extensively around the world with both work and for pleasure. And here I am at Yosemite, or as Donald Trump likes to call it, Yosemite, with one of the sequoia trees here and family. And then I thought about running. I only started running 10 years ago, but I've got an injury now and I really miss running. Here I am in 2018, only halfway round the Great North Run, which is why I'm still smiling. It didn't look like that about an hour later. And music, I love my music. I have a fair record collection. This one here is actually 1913, and at the time this format of record was competing with cylinders for music. Most of my records, however, date from about 1976 through to about 1990 when I bought a CD player. But I have got something like 16,000 songs digitally. But then I heard David talking about the great outdoors, and I thought, that's it. He talked about maps, and I love maps. Anywhere I go, I've got to get the map. I just love it, and I thought that's got to be the topic. Please don't stop now thinking you've heard it all. I'll give a slightly different version of the great outdoors and my love for it. But first, a song which does relate to it. In the 90s, I went on one of those outdoor education centre training things for managers, or I think at the time it was graduates. And you went down on the Sunday and you travelled back on the Saturday, and you spent a week in training there. It was down in the Brecon Beacons, and on a Wednesday night, instead of eating sort of beans on toast in your tent, you got to go out for a meal at a pub, and we had a function room, and this folk duo, Hugh and Tony Williams, were playing. I bought the record, it's signed, I've still got it, and here's my favourite track off it.
Brother of disaster and sister of our fate, do you count the tragedies we see? And brother of confusion and sister of debate, do you remember the sister of Rosemary? The doodlebugs were flying and the blitz was at its height. Rosemary lay sleeping with a sister only 9, and no one heard the one that hit, the one that blew the lid. But Rosemary came out crying, but a sister never did. And you fly high, your dreams are all in vain. One moment we are singing, and the next we cry with pain. And high above the heavens, in a host of angels' wings, Rosemary's sister will be dancing. Her mother cried all that year, as many others did. There were moments when she pulled through now and again, and the people there in Bethnal Street, in the rubble and the stone, swept up the street and started all again. When tyranny is biting, you do your best to try and stifle all your heartache till it's safe again to cry. And when the darkness disappears and the lights come shining through, we'll gather up and start off all anew. But you fly high, your dreams are all in vain. One moment we are singing, and the next we cry with pain. And high above the heavens, in a host of angels' wings, Rosemary's sister will be dancing. There's a teacher in the classroom, there's a mother in the hall. The children sit and wait for the bell for home. And Rosemary is waiting, she's a child now of her own. And she's waiting to collect and take her home. And sometimes in the firelight, in silence where she sits, her mind goes back to Bethnal Street, the darkness and the blitz. And she hears if there's another one, then the end will be complete. Well, I wonder what they'd say in Bethnal Street. And you fly high, your dreams are all in vain. One moment we are singing, and the next we cry with pain. And high above the heavens, in a host of angels' wings, Rosemary's sister will be dancing. Yes, you fly high, your dreams are all in vain. One moment we are singing, and the next we cry with pain. And high above the heavens, in a host of angels' wings, Rosemary's sister will be dancing.
So I hope you enjoyed that. The course wasn't just about listening to folk music. We did some amazing stuff. We went canoeing, kayaking, raft building, climbing, abseiling, hiking, orienteering, camping, and scarily we went caving as well, which is the scariest thing I've done in my life, I think. And as the leader of the centre said in the Brecon Beacons, because we went in December, January and February, he said, if it ain't raining, it ain't training. And it certainly did rain a lot, but I absolutely loved it. Brought together two things that I really enjoyed, and they both grew in me through this experience. One was being outdoors and doing all this great stuff. And the other was about teams and people and how they grow. And my role, I've been a senior manager or director for something like, maybe 25 years now. And I love just seeing people grow and be able to achieve more than they thought they could and contribute great things than what they do. And for teams to do the same and to build teams that work really well together. And this training course did both for me. I became a facilitator on this course because I went back to base and said, how do you do that? And they had teams of 8, maybe 3 or 4 teams of 8. And each team had the instructor, and they were the person who knew what they were doing with the ropes and was safe to take people dangling off cliffs on ropes and things. And they had the facilitator, and I would do the bit that after they'd done the activity, I'd say, well, how did that go? And I'd get out the flip chart and we'd talk about some models and leadership and so on, which was always really fascinating because you say, was that a success in getting from A to B? And the sort of the leaders, yes, we were brilliant. And you'd look around the group and look at some of the expressions on faces and go, Susan, David, did you think it was a success? And he goes, well, it took a lot longer and we got a lot wetter than we should have. And I said, well, why was that? And they said, well, we kind of drew a straight line from A to B on the map and thought that was the best way to go. And we ended up going across all these barbed wire fences. We had to wade through a river and scale cliffs and things. And they said, well, why don't we should have just gone around this valley. We didn't have to go in a straight line. And then other people say, well, why didn't you say anything? And go, well, I did say something, but you didn't listen. And you get all of this working through in the team of who did what and what sort of leadership style it was. And someone would say, well, we always have to just do as we're told in this team. No one else is allowed an opinion. And it was great to see these things work through in the week till when everyone realized there was more to teamwork than just achieving the next task. And I thought that was just fascinating. So I became a facilitator. So once or twice a year, I'd go on and do this course and take part. And also then we ran a long weekend one in summer, which was more pleasant for everybody. And we did the same sort of things, but it was really interesting. A couple of things I'd just like to relate from stories that I have, which were great learning experience for me. One was an activity where people got points which could be used on an expedition later in the week for goodies they might have while they're out camping. And basically you got 10 clues and an OS map, and in 6 of the 10 places there were things that you would need later that night to go out camping, like your tent poles, ground mats, sleeping bags, cooking equipment and food. So you'd have to go and look at these clues, and then you had 6 kilometres of minibus travel from the centre to go out and find these things in black bags, and then go to the campsite and camp overnight. It's a campsite field. And once I saw something happen that was different, because mostly everyone would start competing, we've got to get these clues, and almost we've got to get first to the campsite. And no one ever said it was a race. But once I saw some people trade a bit that said something like, well, I've got the answer to clue 4 to another team. Have you got answer to clue 8 or 10? Yes, we have. Should we do a swap? And then I saw some people say, shall we share a minibus? But once and only once I saw them get themselves organised, and the 4 teams all just shared all their answers, and they shared all their minibus kilometres and had 24 minibus kilometres, which was more than enough to go and get all the clues. Sent 4 people out, and the other 20 sent and had a cup of tea and coffee, and they all got to the campsite with all their equipment sooner than ever had seen before. And just the beauty and importance of collaboration over competition. There's times to compete, and there's times when competing isn't the right thing. I was once in a Assemblies of God Pentecostal church, and they tried to tell me how it was the right Pentecostal church, not the Elim Pentecostal church, and to this day I'm not convinced that God minds too much. The other thing I noticed over the course of the week that I really loved was to see, firstly, these teams come together and work out what success was and how to include everybody. And I always remember one example that always happened is you get the good hiker, and they'd be out front striding ahead, setting the pace, and you've got the person who's never gone for more than a stroll at the back. A good hiker stops for their break, and just as that person who's at the back catches up, they say, right, time to go again. And the poor person at the back never gets a break. And you just watch these things until the people at the back say, hang on a second, this isn't the way we've got to operate as a team. But you saw the teams grow, but you saw individuals grow when you do things like caving, which was scary. We'd go through a squeeze where the ceiling of the cave, the piece we were in, and the floor just got closer and closer together till you're lying down, wriggling forward in a tight and close space to a space that someone tells you ahead, or part where there was a tunnel which just kind of dropped sort of 45 degrees into a tunnel at the bottom. And they made us at times turn off our lights, and after an hour in a cave you can't see your hand in front of your eyes. It's properly black. And it's to see people organize themselves. So to do this activity is, are we all going to do it? If we get a couple of points each for everyone to go through it, are we going to try and force everyone to go through it? Or are we going to say it's okay if people don't want to do it, and to see people work these things out? But the fabulous thing is, at the end of the week when people left, everybody had grown. Everyone believed that they could do more than they did when they first came. So many people when they came say, I couldn't have abseiling, I couldn't have go in a cave, stay a night in a tent overnight, no, I couldn't do it. And everybody came, and it just kind of stuck with me through life about us, our belief and our mindset and our comfort zones, and how much and how good it feels to operate outside your comfort zone once you've done it. To be able to say, here's the things I didn't think I can do, and now I realize I can do. I think God believes in us so much more than we believe in ourselves, and I think he has his list of the things we can't do is very short, whereas ours over the years maybe grows to be way too long. And I think the challenge for us all is to say, do we want that abundant life of excitement and challenge and fulfillment? Because a lot of that lies outside our comfort zone. And it was just great, as I say, watching people operate outside the comfort zone and survive and really thrive. And so that's me. I didn't much mention maps, but David was right. Get a map.